Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Motorsports. You're joined by myself, Mark, and Reece is alongside me as well for this, the F1 podcast, of course, in the week of Las Vegas. And it's going to be a chock-a-block full week in terms of news, in terms of stuff that's going to be happening for Las Vegas. Of course, it's a dramatic return to the Las Vegas circuit. Lots of stories to talk about today in the podcast, of course, with regards to the disaster that it has been throughout the entire year leading up to it, the last couple of years, possible disasters that we'll have during the weekend because of what we basically had to put down to poor planning, and all these other various things that we need to talk about. But before we get there, of course, let's talk about our sponsors, Bitdefender and Boyle Sports. Bitdefender, of course, for all of your cybersecurity needs, be sure to go and check them out as well. And then Boyle Sports, our other partner today, for the week, will be sponsoring this weekend's Grand Prix with a very special sign-on bonus and a couple of things that you guys can do as part of the Boyle Sports link that you'll find in the description of the video. So please be sure to go and check out Boyle Sports, and you can get this. Bet 50 Rand on the Vegas Grand Prix and get 20 extra spins for every 50 Rand you bet in any of the slots, in any of those sort of games on the Boyle Sports app. Be sure to go and check it out. It's an awesome little promotion that they've got there exclusively with us, Forever Motorsports. So be sure to go and check that out. Of course, Las Vegas, the home of betting and poker and all other betting games. Boyle Sports, of course, a betting company, is also doing something fun for it with us, so in association with us. So be sure to go and check them out. And, of course, like the video and subscribe to the channel as we go back, of course, to the news that is Las Vegas Grand Prix. So, we've got the Las Vegas Grand Prix coming up this week, and it is possibly going to be one of the best races we've seen, or one of the worst races we've seen with regards to, it could be incredible entertainment, but at the same time, a disaster in terms of actual racing. Lots of memes have been released, obviously, in the last few weeks with regards to the track looking like Spider-Pig from The Simpsons, and all these other various things, but what we really want to focus on straight away is that pit lane exit straight into turn one and the potential disasters that could happen there.
Yes, just reading an article here from WTF1. Earlier this week, Formula One unveiled some new Las Vegas Grand Prix building photos. And well, there was one thing that really stood out to fans. Was it the huge Formula One sign? No. Was it the extraordinary lighting? Also no. But it was the pit lane exit. The Las Vegas Grand Prix is this weekend. After a whole year of promo and tremendous build-up, it is finally here. A new track, a new city, albeit one that's hosted Formula One before, and some unexpected challenges, such as low temperatures, may just throw up entertaining, maybe even chaotic races. Fans will be eager to see how it plays out, but there's one thing that has sparked concern. The newly released photos of the $240 million pit building highlighted a potentially tricky aspect to the track. The pit exit sees drivers emerge on the end of the straight and into turn one, which will require drivers to stay to the far left-hand side of the track. However, fans have pointed out that for cars already on the track, the natural line for them to take into turn one would go over that pit exit line. Yes, so that could cause quite a lot of issues, not only in the race, of course, with pit stops happening, but also, of course, during qualifying, Mark.
Yeah, so, I mean, the immediate thing is that you have to remember, so for turn one, we go into turn one, and the pit lane comes on the inside of it as well. The idea is the fact that as you exit out of turn one onto the following straight, you're going to collide with that line that is the pit exit. So the problem is, of course, those coming out of the pits have to remain into those lines. They can't get out of the way of drivers that are coming out, and drivers that are coming around the corner will, of course, be coming, that's their best possible line, is to come straight onto that angle. So you could, and it's quite blind as well, let's be honest.
Quite a tight corner. Looking at it at the moment, you can see how all the barriers are built up on the inside of the next corner. So you really do have to take that line where that entire pit exit line goes over, and that would be your natural apex.
And I think that's exactly the problem that we're noting here, is the fact that we are probably going to see accidents and very close encounters throughout the entire weekend, from qualifying to the race itself, because it's just such a really poor planned corner. I mean, it's bizarre to me, the fact they thought that this would be absolutely fine.
For something that's been in the pipeline for, I would expect, years at this point. It would have been designed quite some time ago, and it's just really disappointed us fans and not really been what we were hoping for, in terms of the fact that it might have an issue with that pit exit. We're going to have issues with the fact that they didn't have the foresight as well, that it gets cold in the night at a desert.
Yeah, I mean, the pit exit's one thing. Then we talk about the fact that, as you say, the weather is going to play a huge factor. They thought, we're in a desert, it's going to be absolutely fine, except for the fact that the desert does plummet in temperatures at night. And we are going to see what's the sort of temperatures we're talking about?
So for the race on Sunday, or it's on Saturday evening in Vegas, Sunday European time, I guess. But they're expecting it to be going from 5 degrees to 10 degrees Celsius. I mean, that is freezing cold.
Yeah, and you cannot get your tires warm easily in that sort of weather. And the engines themselves will also struggle to get started in that.
And I mean, going back to this pit exit, it's also going to be in the cold, and then you're going straight into a left-hander on freezing cold tires. You're probably going to slide over that pit exit line and into the racing line even more.
Yeah, so just have a look at that pit exit right there. It doesn't make sense. Drivers are going to come round, and they're going to really enter straight onto that pit exit where the cars are going to be coming out. I do think you're going to have lots of accidents there, and especially cold tires coming out of the pits. It's going to be a bit of a problem. I think you might be sliding around a little bit. They might have issues in terms of getting grip as a result as well. I think that first corner is going to prove to be a disaster, and I reckon we will have a red flag in this race, probably for a pit one incident. And that's not even all the incidents and the problems that we've had for Las Vegas going into this week. We've also had numerous other issues as well, talking mainly also about the fact that grandstands are still not finished, so they're having to move the crowd to different places. Ticket prices are plummeting. I mean, all these various things are happening last minute.
Yes, there is quite a lot happening at the moment in Vegas. A Grand Prix where they were expecting to have completely packed out hotels and packed out VIP boxes. Some of the boxes were set out at about $1 million, and a lot of them have not sold. A lot of the prices for tickets for some of the days have fallen by as much as 80% at this point, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, so they knew they priced it stupidly. And quite frankly, all of those that bought tickets at the full price must be feeling very hard done by.
Yes.
Because of these dramatic price drops they've had, because they cannot sell tickets. And they know they need to sell, they need to fill the place to make it look like such an awesome Grand Prix. It's always been dubbed to be what could be a really, really cool Grand Prix. But we've seen now with all this news coming to light, the fact that it is basically actually poorly planned, rushed, and no logic behind it. I mean, especially when we go back to that weather, which has suddenly become a big problem that people are talking about. We've got an article here that just goes. It's from SI.com. And says, though it is reported to be the coldest race with temperatures dropping as low as 5 degrees centigrade, the twist entails the chance of rain on Friday, which could make matters even worse. So we're looking at the forecast for the entire weekend. It is just stupid, quite frankly. Thursday, of course, because everything's going to be happening a day advanced for the rest of the world. So it's actually, instead of a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're seeing a Thursday, Friday, Saturday in Las Vegas. And the rest of us watching around the world will be in the morning on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So looking at Thursday, free practice 1. The first session could be the warmest of them all, starting at 8:30 local time, and is expected to experience temperatures in the early teens around 10 degrees Celsius or the mid-50s in Fahrenheit. And that's still very, very low.
That is very cold.
Then we go to practice 2 and 3. Practice 2 starts at midnight on the 17th and would mostly remain the same as FP1, except that it would be slightly colder. But FP3 starts at 8:30 p.m. local time again. This is now on the Friday and will be slightly warmer, hopefully, at around 15.5 degrees centigrade. But again, now, here's the other problem that they found on Friday. There could be a 50% chance of rain on the day and during the night. So
I was seeing predictions of that and was really hoping it would be wrong. But those chances are increasing, and that's really going to throw another spanner in the works.
I mean, you have a damp track as well as a wet, as well as a cold track. It's going to be just disasters in terms of tires and engine management. Teams are going to be fuming. Then we go to because obviously the qualifying and the race with regards to those various weather forecasts for those. Qualifying happens at midnight on Friday in Las Vegas, so the rest of us will happen on Saturday morning. It could potentially be done on a wet track if it had rained previously in the evening. And in addition to that, there was a 63% chance of rain on the Saturday afternoon, with temperatures predicted to be lowest at night at around 40 degrees Fahrenheit or at around 4.44 degrees centigrade, almost 0 degrees Celsius
That
for the
would
Grand
make
Prix.
it the coldest Grand Prix in history. The current coldest Grand Prix was Canada in, I want to say 1974, I think it was, in my latest video. I might be wrong on that. Go check out my latest video for that stat. But it could be the new coldest Formula One Grand Prix.
And the track could also be damp as well, based on the fact that they might have afternoon showers on that Saturday afternoon for the Saturday evening race. So it could be disaster after disaster after disaster in Las Vegas. And of course, we've caught up with a few people as well, that within the F1 world, and we've noticed the fact that Max Verstappen has had some very clear claims about what F1's doing.
Max Verstappen is cheerful as always.
Yes.
About a Formula One race, and he's saying he's not looking forward to his Las Vegas trip, and he says that he just wants to do his thing, be gone again after the race.
Yeah.
So he's not going to be gambling at all. As much as all the other Formula One drivers said that Max Verstappen would be the most likely to go and have a night out in Vegas, and the most in the latest Formula One video, but he does not want to stick around too much longer.
No, indeed, and we've got an article here that goes and speaks about Max Verstappen's thoughts about the entire Grand Prix weekend that's coming up, and it is very damning, quite frankly, from the current Drivers' World Champion and the new Drivers' World Champion again, because of course he's already won the season with 2 races to go. Well, he's won it with more races to go, but we've only got 2 races to go, and he's still the winner, of course. So the long straights and the tight corners have had some wondering as to just how good the racing will be in Nevada, and the added issue, of course, of near freezing temperatures, possible rain, the race might not go down as a classic, but in fact a disaster class. That is certainly the opinion of the 3-time world champion Max Verstappen, who said F1 is there for the show more than the racing. First of all, this is Max Verstappen speaking about. He says, first of all, I think we are there more for the show than for the racing itself, if you look at the layout of the track. But, I'm actually not that into it. I'm more like, I'll go there and do my thing and be gone. Vegas is not the only tight track. This is not Max Verstappen speaking now. Vegas is not the only tight track street circuit on the calendar, but when the example of Monaco was raised to the Red Bull driver, he suggested it was the history that made the Monte Carlo circuit special. He said, yes, but Monaco is also just history and the place itself. Everyone wants to have been to Monaco once. You can't really compare. There's still a lot to do. I still need to go on the simulator. I still don't even know the track, to be honest. He said in the build-up to the race in Sao Paulo, of course, this is when the interview was had. The last time I tried it in the F1 game, I think I hit more walls than I was going straight. So let's hope that this is not the case when I start driving there. But it's going to be very different to Brazil. Very low temperatures, of course, in the night there. Street circuit, we have no experience there. We don't know the track. We're all new, so maybe it will give you a few surprises. I don't know. So all we're hearing from Max Verstappen is he's not looking forward to it because, quite frankly, there are too many unknown variables. As Alexandros joins us in the comments there saying hello, guys. Well, hello to you too as well.
Max Verstappen not looking forward to it, but he'll still go on and most likely win the Grand Prix.
Well, maybe he won't. Maybe
yes.
The few surprises he talks about is the fact that maybe Red Bull don't get their setup right. Maybe they really have absolutely no idea how to approach this, as maybe other teams as well. You might find that cars crash into turn 1. People don't know the lines to take. They don't know the overtaking opportunities around the track because nobody has ever tried it. Nobody knows where's the best possible place to make an overtake. We could see some things develop. Normally when you watch the F1 titles play, you go and see, here's a popular place to overtake. Here are the maneuvers people try.
Exactly.
These are the sort of things nobody knows for Las Vegas. Completely new circuit. Nobody has a cooking clue. Well,
we'd expect the most popular overtaking spot to be down that main Las Vegas strip. That is the longest straight on the circuit. But we'll have to wait and see where it does prove to be the best opportunity for overtaking. Just looking at some pictures at the moment in this article at the moment. What is this article about, Mark?
Well, we're just looking more in depth as to what we're actually going to expect from the Las Vegas circuit. We've chatted about it. We've said it's going to be a disaster in terms of certain things, but let's actually find out some stats about the track itself. So, the track is officially called the Las Vegas Strip Circuit. Of course, that's because it does feature the main straight going straight down the Las Vegas Strip. Very famously. I don't know how Las Vegas is going to cope with it, but it will. It features
a lot of traffic.
Yeah. It features 17 corners, and it runs to 3.8 miles long with a barrier-lined outline wrapping around the heart of the most iconic areas of Vegas. All but for 4 corners of the lap are on existing roads, which have been resurfaced ahead of the arrival of F1 during the course of this year. The track actually starts to the east of the strip on a previously disused piece of land bought by F1 and the US owners Liberty Media in 2022 at the cost of $240 million.
So they have a lot of money in this race at the moment.
Yeah, so it has been substantially redeveloped to include a vast permanent pit building, garages, and team areas, along with hospitality facilities, including the luxurious Paddock Club. The pit building is the length of 3 American football fields and features a 28,000 square foot video screen made into the F1 logo on its roof. So trying to do something with regards to the sphere that's right next to it as well. This redeveloped area also features the pit straight and the first 4 corners of the circuit.
Yes, from there, the lap rejoins the Coville lane and then races towards the astonishing MSG sphere. In Vegas, which is a new $2.3 billion, 366, sorry.
Numbers everywhere.
Foot immersive music and entertainment arena that has captured global attention since opening in September. U2 is currently performing there at their Las Vegas residency, and they're having to postpone that till the end of the Formula One race.
Yeah, so Formula One will actually have all access rights to the screen on the outside, the big sphere, of course, very famous sphere now that's done, all the news all over the world. They will have access to it, and they will be putting their own imagery on it itself. So what could we expect from that? I don't quite know just yet. It could be very, very interesting, of course. And, you could see some memes.
Yes, well,
we talk
I'm
about
certainly
those sort of
expecting
things.
to see some memes. I think we're going to see what we've been seeing in the past with the just delete that and with the memes that we've seen on the big screen following airplanes and looking at people. We'll throw that up onto screen in a second. There it is. We've seen that quite a lot. I think that's going to be following the Formula One cars as they whiz past. I think we might see some memes of the Formula One drivers. There's been a lot being posted on social media at the moment. Go look at motorsport.com. They're currently having a bit of a poll with their fans, just making memes about how they could use the sphere in Vegas this weekend. I'd certainly love to see some of those memes make its way onto the big screen.
It's exactly that. It's a huge sphere right next to the track, of course, and it's going to be completely owned by F1 in terms of the imagery they put up. So we could see some very fancy things. I imagine you'll see flags of the winners and the different of all the sessions and the winner at the end, and fireworks and all these various things could be put on it. Could be very, very cool to see. If nothing else, it will be a spectacle, if not a disaster of a spectacle. But looking now, of course, as to how they turned Las Vegas into an F1 circuit. We're speaking to, this article here, Sky Sports, was speaking to the Las Vegas Grand Prix CEO, Rennie Wilm, who said, I said the biggest challenge is really just transportation planning. Yeah, so we are essentially encapsulating 60,000 hotel rooms, workers, guests, and visitors of Las Vegas. And how do we ensure that we are able to keep traffic moving, keep people moving when the track is hot? Well, at this point, cold, quite frankly. As Darren also says, I heard it's going to be cold and a big flop in Vegas. Indeed, could be very, very cold. So when he says track is hot, not really that hot. And in that regard, we have installed 3 temporary bridges, which will allow vehicles to access the interior of the track while we are during the race time, and working with the locals hand and glove to figure out how we continue to move the employees and how we get guests into the interior of the track. The roads that make up the circuit will start to shut from 5 p.m. on each of the 3 days of the F1 track activity and reopen from 2 a.m. They will be what is described as hot, ready for the track action, and handed over to officials for the FIA, F1's governing body, from 7 p.m. each evening. Now, it's very interesting that, of course, the fact that they've got the whole track there, and then they're literally allowing normal regulars to go onto the track. Somebody could have an accident, you could have oil spill. Yeah, it's true.
It's exactly the same as Monaco. It's a street circuit. We get it in Azerbaijan. We get it in... Where else do we get street circuits? I'm trying to think now.
Many places.
Singapore. Yeah.
So,
it happens all over the place. So there's always those added risks.
You will have these added risks, of course, but it is Las Vegas, and it is going to be very close to the start time of the Grand Prix itself. And because it's such a new circuit, nobody knows the whole... what's the word I'm looking for? But basically, the organization of it all. They don't know how it's all going to work. They don't know how long it's going to take to do it. I'm sure they've had a couple of test runs, but you'll never know when you've got all the equipment there now.
I'm sure this is all going to go quite well. Normally, a race is run by an organizer on behalf of Formula One, and they're contracted in to do it. In this circumstance, it's completely run by Formula One. So it should go like clockwork, you would expect, at least, because they hold all their contractors to really high levels. So they should be able to hold their own race to that exact same standard. whether we're going to see the likes of track limits at a circuit like this, I don't know. I think it's going to be quite similar to normal street circuits where
Plus,
walls are already
it's a
closed.
street circuit, so you
So
won't
we
need
shouldn't have that
track
to,
limits. Yeah.
we shouldn't have that to deal with this weekend, which is a good thing for once. It's been a lot of controversy, as well as this week. We haven't spoken about it yet, but Haas launched an appeal into the Austin Grand Prix, and that was rejected by the FIA.
Yeah, so Haas once again just taking L's throughout the entire season, as they always do.
Well, it was to have a look into the track infringements that they deemed weren't investigated properly throughout the race. A lot of fans thought that they had a basis to bring up the appeal, but Formula One clearly and the FIA did not think the same way, so that was rejected by them. And you can of course go and find out a bit more in my video on the channel if you want to know a little bit more about that.
Exactly that. So we move on to another article now, and leaving a little bit of talking about the Las Vegas track circuit itself. This is going into the lead up to what we could expect in Las Vegas in terms of performance from Mercedes. And the fact that Toto Wolff has been speaking to the media, and Planet F1's got an article about it, saying that they've made a key discovery and they can explain what happened in Brazil in terms of their disaster class. Now, Reece, I'm not sure if you talked about this in your other shows yet.
No, not yet.
But we'll talk about it now anyway. And the fact that Mercedes boss Toto Wolff has confirmed the team has found the answers for their woeful performance at the Brazilian Grand Prix circuit. And of course, we hope that then they fix those issues going into Las Vegas and they'll be absolutely fine there. So Mercedes' weekend in Sao Paulo went from bad to worse last time out, culminating in a DNF for George Russell, who would have most likely been lapped by race winner Max Verstappen, and a lowly P8 finish for 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton. It was a far cry from 12 months prior, when Russell was able to have a car at his disposal capable of winning the race in Brazil, of course, although that victory has been the only one recorded by the Silver Arrows since the conclusion of the F1 2021 season. Mercedes have found the answers. So, ahead of the huge week for F1 in Las Vegas, one slight problem, of course, Wolff isn't sharing the information that has been collected by Mercedes over this past weekend, though they seemingly have found it. He said, after sorry, you can say this part.
After promising performances in the US and Mexico Grand Prix, we didn't perform at our best in Brazil, Wolff said. We've been hard at work to identify the wrong turn that we took in the setup. And we have now done that. We understand our mistakes and can explain our performance loss to the field. That is important as we look to secure P2 in the Constructors' Championship.
Yeah, I mean, basically keeping all his cards close to his chest, of course.
I have a bit of a theory as to why, but I think they were quite conservative with their ride heights this weekend with the sprint race. They didn't get a lot of running, unfortunately, in that FP1 session, and they were very conservative compared to the rest of the grid, and that is why they
So you say ride height?
Yes, ride height. That is, I mean, ride height is what cost them the podium in the US Grand Prix, so they've been quite conservative since.
Okay. Well, Wolff has said, and he's continued, in parallel, he says, we have been preparing for the challenge of racing at a venue that is a complete unknown. We have prepared the best we can, using the limited information we have, and there are some unique characteristics we can anticipate. The schedule is offset compared to other races. We'll be running at night where ambient and track temperatures will likely be in the single digits. Plus, the track layout itself is unusual with many slow corners but long straights. It's going to be a big challenge for us all, and we're looking forward to taking it on. It will also be an immense effort off track. We have an impressive guest hosting program, including our own 3-story Vegas club next to Turn 4. Media interest will be through the roof, and seeing the cars race down the Las Vegas Strip will be one of the most exciting moments of the season, and if not just the season, in sports history, I think, because I
think it's going to be a big weekend in terms of celebrity guests on the track. I think we're going to get a few interesting Martin Brundle moments, that is for sure. We got a Machine Gun Kelly one last weekend out in Brazil, which was interesting to say the least. And I'm sure we'll get a few more this race weekend, but I'm really looking forward to it, actually. I think it's going to be exciting. It's going to be tricky for the teams to get their setups correct, but I'm really hoping that we will get some good racing. And just looking at another team that we haven't really spoken about too much in today's podcast.
No. So we've not spoken about many teams at all.
No.
But yes, that is Aston Martin,
yes,
who admits that it was a mistake to make a painful F1 experiment so public, or all of their experiments so public. In recent months, of course, Aston Martin have worked to effectively reverse engineer components developed for next year and then fitted them to the current AMR 2023 with the flaw and area of focus. But amid a decline in results for the team that scored a podium in 6 of the opening 8 races during the recent United States and Mexican Grand Prix weekends, it split drivers Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll between old and new floor specifications to conduct real-world back-to-back testing. During these rounds, the team banked only 6 points before cherry-picking components for the most recent Brazilian Grand Prix, when Fernando Alonso, of course, pipped Sergio Perez to return to the podium in third place. It was a great weekend for Aston Martin, but they are admitting they made huge mistakes prior to that.
I think it was necessary for them to do because they were lacking in pace after the restart of the season. We really did see that lack in pace and the drop-off when the other teams started to bring major upgrade packages and gained quite a lot more. Of course, Red Bull was still able to stay a level above, but the likes of Aston Martin fell back. At least in the last few races, they have started clawing their way back up the grid, and Alonso was able to get that podium just from Sergio Perez in Brazil. But that's what we want to see. We want to see teams getting a lot closer, clawing back those points. And we love a comeback mid-season, as well as, teams have loved watching what McLaren have been doing this season. Well, not just teams, but fans.
Yeah, exactly that. But two-time champion Alonso, of course, admitted the fact that those experiments that they did have during those 2 Grand Prix and a couple of those prior said they were really painful to endure. He said, we had to experiment a little bit more on a few things on the car to really understand the direction that we were going. And we have to go for next year's car as well. So those races were painful, especially Mexico. I think we were very slow as a team. Ahead of the final 2 rounds of the season in Las Vegas and Abu Dhabi, Aston Martin's performance director Tom McCulloch now acknowledges that it was a mistake for the team to carry out so much research and development in public. He said, we're really just focusing these next few races on trying to get as many points as we can do, rather than doing too many R&D projects in front of all of the track. We really got into trying to do some big testing and understanding for next year, with which we've done and got all the data in the bank. It is tough doing all the R&D, especially during a sprint event. We don't want to be starting from the pit lane. We've introduced some parts, we've done some testing, we did a bit too much R&D work in front of you all and over the next 2 race weekends, which maybe in hindsight wasn't the right thing to do. But we're pretty happy we've got good understanding of the way to develop the car, which is key for next year.
Yes, he went on to say, this is not about the outside.
Team boss, actually.
So, Team boss Mike Crack added that Aston Martin had sacrificed results, but it was not about pandering around to the outside world. He said, this is not about the outside world, this is about ourselves. We wanted to learn as much as possible for next year, but obviously then you sacrifice a bit the current results. You have a range of parts that you combine. The cars are very complicated and you need to really understand the different areas and how they interact with each other.
So, does that mean that Aston Martin is going to be good for the next 2 race weekends? Do they actually understand what's gone wrong and have they made the relevant fixes? It seemed like they did in Brazil, of course. They got a 3rd and a 5th place finish. Brilliant for the Aston Martins, considering their performances prior to that. Can we expect anything decent from them this weekend?
I certainly hope so. It is a high-speed circuit. We've had high-speed circuits where Aston Martin have done well in the past, in Baku, in Saudi Arabia. I remember Fernando Alonso challenging into turn 1 there. So I think it could be a circuit where they could pull their socks up a little bit and really get their elbows out and fight with the top bunch.
Yeah, so normally we do this, of course, in a preview and otherwise and sort of things, but I think we can just sort of have a guess. We've got Las Vegas this weekend. It is going to be the most interesting Grand Prix of the season, I believe, just because of all the unknown factors and all the potential problems that are leading into it. Of course, weather. We talk about that turn 1 pit exit. We talk about all of the problems they've had in terms of getting the track ready over the last year. At the same time, it's going to be a huge spectacle that the whole world will surely watch. Who is going to come out on top? Out of absolutely no information to back it up,
Max Verstappen.
Max Verstappen yet again. So Max Verstappen won.
I think off the basis from the rest of the season, I think you have to say Max Verstappen.
So Max Verstappen is winning that Grand Prix apparently. He'll win in Vegas, and then will he go on to be even more lucky in the slots? Who knows? That's the sort of thing.
If he feels like doing that, he might just jump back straight into his private jet and head home.
Yeah. So there's all these various things that could happen this weekend. It's going to be very, very fun to watch. You, of course, can catch us here on Forever Motorsports. We'll be streaming all the sessions live with myself and Reece alongside me. And Reece will be with you throughout the entire week, building up to the Grand Prix this weekend for all of his shows, all of his other videos. So be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. And once again, big shout out to our sponsors, Bitdefender and Boyle Sports. Of course, Boyle Sports have got a very cool promotion going into this weekend. For every 50 rand you place on in the games and inside their app, they will give you 20 free spins in their slot machines. So be sure to go and check that out. It's very, very cool. You could win big with Boyle Sports. And of course, check out Bitdefender, our cybersecurity sponsor. As we end off this video, pretty much, Alexandra's just giving us predictions, just saying Verstappen will rather win, and Charles will take pole again. Well, would you say that's a decent prediction?
I think that would be a good prediction. Charles Leclerc could easily take pole. The Ferraris are quite good at high-speed circuits as well. They could also be in with the mix this weekend if their engines and their hydraulics don't fail on the formation lap again.
Exactly that. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us for the F1 podcast. We'll be here again soon. And for myself, Mark,